After, and I want to get us started. My name is Kelly Schlieder, and I am your host for the next hour. I want to start with saying good evening, good afternoon, and good morning because I know we have people from all across the world. It is morning here where I'm at in the United States. Today, we are talking about building a career in competitive intelligence. The interesting thing is it's not a linear path. All of us got there mostly by doing. There's now programs in a lot of colleges, not a lot, but there are programs in colleges available, and we see a great maturing of this field. What we're going to talk about are things like your background, how our panelists got into this, um, the how panelists survived change or layoffs in their careers, what CI careers look like now, and what's coming. So I'm going to get us started. First thing I'm going to do is introduce myself and then ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves. I'm asking three questions. So, who are you and what do you do today? For me, I am a senior consultant with United Concordia Dental, which is part of the Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield family. And this is my first full time CI job, despite having over 20 years' experience. How I got into competitive intelligence really it's been a part of my entire career. As I look back, I've been in insights and information all along. It's changed where I did it and how I did it. So I've translated those skills to different industries like retail, supply chain, consumer goods, now in insurance and nonprofit. And I've also worked across sales, marketing, and strategy. So those skills have played very well for me. And I think you'll hear that from a lot of different people. My third and last question for each of you is what one lens do you bring to today's discussion? And for me, it's being a resilient leader.
Mm,
Yeah.
nice. Well
Okay.
done. Well done, you, Kelly. Shall I
Thanks.
go next?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. My name is Andrew Beurschgens. Today, I am Andrew Beurschgens, and I'm a senior business intelligence manager here at Dyson, supporting one of its adjacent categories that we shan't go into what that adjacent category is. So I came into CI probably over 40 years ago. And that was primarily driven by classic market research, always being controlled by budget and research dollars and well, predominantly a lot of those things. And it was at a stage, I would say, where it was less focused on connecting the dots. So to transfer value equation into something that I really enjoyed, somewhat less than a job, not a career, but more of a passion. I came across the competitive intelligence almost 40 years ago. And what is the lens that I bring to today's undertakings? I suppose it's more towards the softer skills, about trusting, creating trusted working relationships that make boats go faster, whether that's decision making, setting up programs, pivoting programs, or reapplying to get back in. So I would say it's more of the create that environment of trust for the magic to do its magic.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Andrew. So, August was supposed to join us. He's unable to now. He had another commitment. So, I'd like to jump over to Eric. Please introduce yourself.
Hi there, my name is Eric Garland. I am in my 29th year of competitive intelligence. I got straight in the field as a collector and analyst in 1997. I moved on to more strategic level, broad frameworks of intelligence. I now see everything as part of the intelligence profession more broadly, though my intellectual home, I think, will always be competitive intelligence the way I learned it in the late 90s. Where my career has gone since then, I have been an independent consultant for much of that time, though I have also been an internal corporate employee as well at different times. And I even see that as somewhat philosophical in their differences. It's a question of who cuts you a paycheck when and why. But ideally, it's the same process. Somebody needs some value, and whether they want to keep going to the same cubicle that's within a building that they already pay rent on, or you're the one who keeps your computer and coffee machine. I think ideally there isn't a lot of difference. The framework and the lens that I bring is anthropological. As I round 30 years of this, I realize my job is understanding people and how they think. And all I'm trying to do is change people's minds. I bring them information, not just to bring it to them, but so that they can change their mind. To what? I don't care. I think the thing that we do more than anything else, more than almost anybody else in an organization, is we can get you to change your mind. And if we can do that, we can then talk about what value was created or destroyed by that change. So I'm in the business of getting people to think. And so my lens is anthropological and my angle is humorous. As I was saying before the call started, I have been fired more than most people have been hired ever, and I have been thrown out of more boardrooms than you've ever been in. And I'd be more than happy to talk about the tragicomedy that led to all of that. It all goes into making more of a professional. But you're going to need some humor, and there's going to be plenty to have. So let's talk.
That is so true. Yes, thank you. Yes, we didn't know that we were going to have a comedian on the panel today, but we do.
Thank you. I get warmed up.
Okay, let's jump over to you, Megan.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Young. I'm a market insights consultant at United Concordia Dental. And I came into competitive intelligence by receiving a degree in competitive intelligence from Mercyhurst University. And the perspective that I'm bringing to today's discussion is as a CI professional early on in their career with formal CI training. I've been with UCD for about 4 years, and this is my first real job outside of college.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Ooh.
Great. And I have the pleasure of working with Megan every day, which is awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. We have one more panelist we are waiting on. His name is Tom Tao, and hopefully he will be joining us. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to talk about amongst our panelists is how people actually get into CI. And Megan, I'd like to start with you. Could you tell me a little bit more about the CI program you went through at Mercyhurst and your experience? I think that's great because most of us didn't have formal training, but now these programs are available. So please tell us about your experience.
Absolutely. So the Business and Competitive Intelligence program at Mercyhurst really follows 2 tracks. One track is the business side. So students have to attend courses through the business college, such as economics and accounting, to gain that basic foundation of how business operates. And then the other track is through the Intelligence Studies program. And this is really where you hone your skills as an analyst. Mercyhurst prepares its students to enter the private or public sector. And when I say public, I mean the government intelligence agencies, such as the DoD, FBI, CIA, just to name a few. But regardless of what sector the student decides to go into, we all walk out of this program with the foundational knowledge that we need to be analysts. They teach you the hard skills, such as critical thinking and aggregation and synthesizing of large amounts of information to form that into the key findings that our leaders and decision makers need to know. But they also weave in soft skills, such as the ability to collaborate effectively in a team setting and time management skills, which are very important. And overall, throughout the program, they really treat you like you are a young professional. They hold you to a very high standard. And it's very evident in the assignments that we have to take on and the way that we have to present ourselves. And within these assignments, it's just very rigorous. And to go a little more into the details of the actual Intel program, there are several classes and memories that flood my mind when I think about this, and I could talk about it for a really long time. But in the interest of time, I'm going to bucket them into two buckets. So one bucket is the framework heavy courses. And these are the ones that focus on the formal analysis and frameworks, such as multi-criteria decision making, the analysis of competing hypothesis, your strategic SWOT, which is a little different than your normal SWOT. You have your STEEP analysis, your Porter's Four Corners, BCG matrix, just a lot of different frameworks. And the professors take the time to walk you through this. And this ultimately changes your way of thinking and builds that foundation that you need to then go into the other courses, which are the second bucket of the aggregation and synthesizing of large amounts of information. And ultimately, once you get through the program, you then have to take a capstone course to graduate called Strategic Intelligence. And I think that this course is very critical. You get not paired up, you get put into small groups of 4 or 5 students, and then you get matched up with a real company or intelligence agency that tasks you with a real project. And throughout the semester, the students have to work together to formulate their key findings and then ultimately present these key findings to the decision makers in person or virtually. And I think this is such a great way to bridge the formal training into the real life workforce.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a couple of questions coming in. We will address them a little bit later. I want to get through a few more of our discussion, and then we'll get over to the Q&A questions. I want to start with a question out to the full panel. Anybody can answer this. What did you learn on the job that no CI course could teach you? Go ahead.
It's quite a difficult one, that one, having not been on the course, but listening to what Megan was saying, I would say everything. Elicitation 101, I consume the books from Ellen Naylor is on this call, John Nolan III, who wrote Elicitation book. What else did I understand? Barbara Minto's way of structuring the business problem around situation, complication, question and answer, whether that's inductive or deductive. Is it bad news you're about to deliver, or is it, a recommendation that is about properly framed questioning? Trade show collection. Jonathan Kaloff has, written tomes on trade shows and how much they are about drinking from a fire hose. But, there is a certain set of soft skills associated with engaging in trade shows ethically and above board. There is the whole, ability to elicit the information, whether you're stood in front of a panel of 3 or 4 people who are, one of them's answering the question, the other 3 are looking you up and down, is really quite important. There's the whole idea of storyboarding. How much can you get across in an elevator as you go, if you are lucky enough to work on multiple floors, to go from one end of the building to the other, and how you structure that communication. The analysis from Craig Fleischer and Babette Ben-Susan, I remember when those books were first in print, there hadn't been really anything prior to their research being published in that way. Communication skills, some people may on this webinar recognize that I may not have so many communication skills, but it's always, we're not here having made it, we're here having to continue to learn. Facilitation, again, soft skills associated with ensuring that you can take a group of people who are somewhat cynical or somewhat questioning about things that have not yet happened, and how you would prepare for them should various other steps take place, whether that's scenario planning, whether that's competitor role play or wargaming. So I would say, what did I learn on the job? I'd say I'd learned everything. And I continue to learn. It's a runway that keeps on giving. And as I've moved from one industry to another, it's assuming nothing. And every day is a school day.
Yeah, that's great. All very good points. Eric, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, something that I did not learn outside of the industry that I could not have learned any way but the hard way was how little value being right is.
Mm. Mm.
Being correct is the least interesting and least useful thing I do all day, and I do it for a lot of the day. It is not being right. It is getting someone to do something with information.
Yeah.
And often being right makes it, the better it is, makes people angry. And so being a grief counselor a relationship counselor,
Yeah.
and a psychologist. If I had to do it over again, I would have done way more psychology formally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is helpful to do like FBI grade, psychological profiling when you're doing human intelligence. But what the secret is, you're going to need that for your customers
Mhm.
on what's going to trigger them emotionally. Because if you, in fact, when you're doing longer term strategic intelligence types things and you're describing a future that they don't understand, even if you're completely accurate and you're leading them way to this future they need to start planning for now, there's no threat. We live in an economy where we're all knowledge workers, and our ability to make above the minimum wage is based on our having specialized knowledge. I wish I had realized sooner that when you are describing a future in which the audience or the decision maker, the client, has no experience, you're forcing them into a space where they don't have any specialized knowledge, and they may be subconsciously reacting that they're going to be broke, that they are not going to have a job because in the world that you're describing, they don't know anything very useful. And then that sets off a bunch of, limbic system triggers, and then you get thrown out of the office yet again. I understand that my personality and a body habitus may have more of a factor in that than just that, but I think also there are reactions that may just be from the intelligence that I've dropped. So
Yeah. I think you bring up a very good point about one of the critical skills that you have to learn is navigating the personalities and understanding what the triggers are, because there are going to be triggers and they're going to be sometimes angry or scared responses to what you are providing to them. So I think that's great. Thank you both. I want to jump into our next area, which is building credibility and value in organizations. And this doesn't have to be when you're brand new just out of school. This could be in your profession and jumping to another company that you're working for. And Eric, I'm going to put you on the spot first. What changed in how you worked or communicated at each level as you progressed in your career?
So, early on, of course, you might not have a lot of ultimate client visibility. Though, the role that I had from the time I was 23 was as a collector and as the analyst. So I had to go out and get the information, and then I had to digest it. And if you think about this in terms of like upper level, sort of three-letter agencies where some of our methodology comes from, these jobs are broken up. You have somebody who is collecting, and then there's an analyst back home who's probably more mature, and has more perspective, who's digesting these things. And then somebody else entirely might be the one who briefs this to the customer for the intelligence, where I had to do it all. Though the seniors in the company would be talking to the clients. I think what happened, over time, if I look out 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, later on, you need to be the one who is, interacting with the customer. As that moves up in sophistication, you are the one helping design the project itself. You are assisting in asking the right questions, not just answering them. And then above that, you may be trying to, help cultivate the environment, the cultural and cognitive environment in which these decisions are made, these ideas are formulated. I really want to work on now, like, what story is your organization trying to interact? What is the organization's assumption? And I don't want to get too far into content, but like, there's a lot of work on AI right now, artificial intelligence, and I can go find out what some company is up to right now and answer specific questions around that. But I want to be at the level of talking to whoever's formulating these questions and going, all right, what is AI doing? Are we talking about replacing people in their jobs? Are we talking about expert systems? What are we talking about? Because some of these subjects have been in discussion before about software and expert assisted this and that. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to make life better? Are we trying to get rid of people? Are we trying to put all our decisions in a black box, which to me has some hints of fascism to it, where we're taking away the liability and the responsibility. Those are high level questions. And
Mm.
down the way there, they go, well, we got three companies and we think they might be doing this. Go figure it out. Now that I'm 30 years in, I can go get you those answers, but it would probably be better if we had a discussion about what your assumptions are and why you want to go get those answers.
Mm.
And that can be part of my job now, whereas, it wasn't possible when I was 2 years in because I didn't know
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. Thank you. Andrew, I want to go to you next. I want to ask a two-part question. One is, how did you learn what not to analyze? And then how did you learn to push back?
Oh,
Yeah.
hopefully not pushing back so much that I get shown the door, thrown out the window, as Eric has alluded to, has happened over his previous 30 years. But hey, I follow in good footsteps or airways, depending on which way you look at it. I suppose what not to focus on from an analysis perspective. I suppose I grew up for 20 years in telco land, and I don't know if too many people on the call are from telco land, but it got to a stage where you employed a lot of people either from the big consultancies, and what you learned from them, if you saw them as an active opportunity to learn rather than think about them as taking your watch and telling you the time and then handing you back your watch, was they had unique ways to frame stuff. They knew how to communicate. They knew how to do issue trees to be able to focus on the engagement and ensure that you walked away with the three things that you needed to know, having already prepared in advance for it. So unique ways to frame the problem, unique ways to communicate, to storyboard, to what Eric said about framing the narrative. So for me it was, and then I've sort of evolved and developed that by creating this, or try to create this element of trust, where you create this MVP as the words agile or fragile come out into the new narrative, and therefore being able to play back conversations that frames a problem, captures the assumptions from the conversations that we've had, and therefore started to sketch out what that might need to look like in terms of things to plan for, to help tell this narrative. Is it a threat, or is it an opportunity? Is there innovation which is desirable, feasible, and viable? And I think when you start to think of things in those sort of buckets, I think being able to sort of get through the noise and craft the narrative that you're able to stand in a lift and go from the top floor to the bottom floor, or one floor at least, and tell that story, is quite important. So you sort of start removing, that's not to say you build in biases and you build in issues that are you're blinding yourself to as part of the research process. But I think it does help in being able to understand what are the drivers of adoption, what are the drivers of creating money, and using those to sort of get through the issue of what not to collect and what not to analyze. So definitely around framing, definitely around creating trust quickly, being able to play that back, doing things that you said you would do when you would do them, to continue to create that element of trust, are the broader circle that happens around just the analysis. Because I think, as Eric alluded to, it's not just the IQ that gets you further in life, it's the EQ as well. So the emotional intelligence and being able to read the people in the room and create those elements of trust, especially if you're sat in front of people who either care little or giving you the time, but perhaps don't care as you would like them to care from the outset. So that's the things that I've tended to focus on. Getting to 80% of the answer, as as not as quickly as possible, but within a measured time frame, hypotheses, drivers, tree analysis, and so on and so forth to create that element of trust and confidence that the right outcome will be created, which hopefully will be a series of recommendations, options, or threat or opportunity, and therefore, what could be done about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm actually going to jump in and take a question. This was originally something I wanted to discuss with August. And that's around what helped you to be taken seriously before you had a long track record. And I'm going to use my current job. I had a lot of CI skills when I came to this job, but I had limited insurance. I came from prior to this working in benefits. So I had some exposure, but I had very limited insurance. And it was a huge learning curve. What I did first and foremost is admitted that I don't know the industry. And I think it's critical that you don't try to dress that up. You're honest and you take advantage of the fact that you're a new kid for 365 days. At 366, I myself would bust you, but take advantage of that because that allows you to ask questions, especially in an established organization that maybe someone else couldn't ask, but you can. And network, build your brand internally and talk to people. One of the things that I like to do, even many years in at this company, as I get new internal clients, is test and share news. Send it to them. I'm seeing this. Is this important? How does it impact us? So you can learn from that. I think that helps you to build your skills, build your track record with people, and then provide insight. So don't just dump an article on somebody, give a couple, 3 bullets. Here's what it is, and even put in there what I think it means, even though I don't know this industry. So help me with this, help me to learn it. I think those are very important and good skills. And always lean into those CI skills you have. They're going to help you in every job. So I want to move us over to our next topic, which is surviving change and layoffs and any kind of career disruption. I know a number of us have experience in that. I'm going to jump in first here and talk about how I navigated that period between roles and what helped me to go in a different direction. So I will say I have experienced a number of layoffs due to corporate mergers. This last one that I had was a corporate acquisition. And I will say it wasn't easy. I know in my first time that it happened, I was embarrassed. I think back now, I think, why was I embarrassed? I didn't lose my job because of something I did. I lost it from a corporate merger or sale or whatnot. But that was emotionally very hard for me. And I did what I always do, which is to get involved in things, get involved externally. I took online classes related to the field. I started networking. I even just got out, I made plans every day for I do a little bit of job hunting and then I'd get out. This current job, this last transition was different for me. I think I said earlier, I had always had jobs where CI was a part of it, but not full time. And when I lost my last job, I started to really evaluate what makes me happy, what do I enjoy, and I came back to competitor intelligence. And that was at a time also where I was starting to see full-time CI positions. There have been around, but really I've seen an influx of them in the last decade. And that's when I said, this is what I want to do. I'm going to pursue this. And it got me excited and made that shift in my career where now it just wasn't a piece of what I did. It was everything I do. And I do love it. I love that it evolves over time. Andrew, I want to ask you, what was the hardest part emotionally and what helped you?
Yeah, I suppose I've been made redundant twice now. The first time is on my birthday when the organization went into public administration. But that was a sort of warm-up period. We saw it in August. Unfortunately, Twin Towers came down. Money doesn't move around the world as quickly. And, basically the company ran out of money. So that was one scenario. And therefore, as a result of that, it was a different reaction. I was early 30s then. And then more recently was May 2024, so relatively recently, so a good few years on, almost a quarter of a century on from that. And I think that was the more difficult thing, because people had said, Beurschgens, you are your work, and therefore being able to distance yourself. That's not to say that I'm a workaholic, that's not the case, but I do take a lot of pride out of what we get done here in the space of market or competitive intelligence. So you do go on that cycle of frustration, anger, not depression in the truest sense of the word, but sadness, and then you come through acceptance, and then you sort of get on with it. So I think what I managed to do there was distance myself from it, because the umbrella package was sufficient enough to give me that time to adjust. So that was probably the sort of the beautiful thing, and then create different routines and different rhythms. I had spent the last 2.5 years in cyber safety, where I had worked all from home. And so, the opportunity to, recognize that I didn't want to work from home in the next field, the fact that I was in a part of the UK where, these roles don't come around as labeled competitive intelligence. They are a subset of an insight discipline. And therefore, the skill set that I had, the fact that I wasn't a flight risk, that was, quite a key element. And actually not going in knowing that you had all the answers, because the reality of life is I don't, and I didn't. So I took advantage of an opportunity that came here at Dyson, where I was covering a category that I had no experience of whatsoever. And so being able to, convince somebody who was probably half my age at the time, and probably still is, and that actually every day was going to be a school day, and the fact that I don't have all the answers, but what I have got is what I call Helen Rothberg's advice, which was I have the energy for action, for determination, for vision, for integrity, communication, and empathy. And she wrote that mnemonic down in her book. Everything that I know as a CEO, I learned as a bartender. And I think, bringing that to the party and hoping that the opportunities to, create those openings through the applications, which invariably came through LinkedIn, that invariably, encountered over 100 applicants, that invariably may have been screened through AI, that would have either weeded you in or weeded you out. I was grateful for the opportunity to broaden horizons and meet new people. That's not to say that I hadn't met new people prior to that, but I think networking and leaning into the network, not just at the time of change, but well ahead of that period of change, was equally important. And I think, being open, reframing your mindset, because it's only that far apart, right? It's the width of your head between open and closed mindset. And I think, treating every day as a school day, coming into a new category, a new industry, and being able to give the interviewer and the interviewers a sense of trust that I would break things down in a 30, 60, 90 window, and this is what the outcome would look like over that period of time, knowing that I would probably have new people who were half my age and knew, more than I would do about this industry, and treat them as equals. So, for me, it was about, selling that vision of trust. And being able to be quite flexible as to when you would start. So that was me, and that's how I started to think about pivoting to come back into the discipline, having been kicked out of it, and it was a kick out of it. And coming back in and thoroughly enjoying myself, 5 days a week on a campus environment, real people, not just on screens as we enjoy today. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Continue to enjoy it because I've not finished the enjoyment yet.
That's good. That's good. I just was going through the discussion. There's a very good chat going on, and I wanted to highlight a couple of things. First of all, Elise has a great sense of humor. The amount of alcohol consumption required to survive a long-term career in CI. What else do we have here? I saw, let's see. Also, Elise said, saying no is the most powerful word in this profession. I agree 100%, and it can be a single statement. No, I'm not going to do that. You got to know your clients, though. And let's see, what else do we have here? Parmalee said, I have refused projects because I could see that the research would not lead to actionable info. That's great insight. Very good. If you know it's just going to be, I'm going to vomit information, not worth your time or for your client, getting to understand what they really need to make a decision is important. And let's see, what else? Asking, Michelle says, I find it essential to ask the context questions. What are we trying to achieve when tasked? Often the questions posed aren't the correct ones based on the situation. And I will add to that and say, often the client doesn't really know what they need to know. They're going to ask you for the kitchen sink of information. So it's our job as researchers to ask the questions about how they're going to use it, what they're trying to accomplish. We know the questions to ask and the information. That's a couple of the highlights here. I'm going to keep us moving, and we do have a new panelist that just joined us, Tom. So I'm going to ask you, Tom, to take a minute and introduce yourself to everyone before we move on to the next set of questions.
Hi, everyone. Sorry to be late. Technology has its downsides. And here's a little bit of a background of me. I sort of get into CI as I became the student of John Prescott about 25 years ago. And that was the sort of beginning of my CI career, and I also remember going into a skip when it was at its heydays, where we have 2,000 people attending the conferences. It was an exciting time. But after graduation with my PhD on strategy, I started to research on CI and also starting to teach on CI courses. I did a little bit of a CI sort of teaching in JMU, in Lehigh, and also I'm currently teaching in the Georgetown CI program and also UD's CI courses right now. And so that's a little bit of a background of me.
Thank you. We're glad you were able to join us. You bring a different perspective from the education side, and that's very helpful to understand. And that leads me to our next discussion area, which is what CI careers look like now and what's coming. And so I am going to actually ask you the first question, which is, how is CI education changing as organizations expect broader insight capabilities?
Oh, thank you. We are, and actually, I have a few students working with me on this research project that we're looking at the online job posts of all the CI positions from about 2010 to 2025, or even 2026 right now. So the database that we are working on has all these online job posts from all different companies, all different industries, and we extract the competitive intelligence related jobs from it. And then we were able to construct a longitudinal data set to see what has been going on and what are the trends in CI in terms of the number of job posts available, and also what kind of industry are looking for people with CI skills, and also what company, what region, and also what kind of skill is becoming sort of more important over time. So that's one thing that we've been studying now. And certainly one of the key skills that I see as a gap between what we are teaching in school versus what I see in the job market is communication skills.
Mm.
See, in school, in our curriculum, we tend to focus on methods, on theories, on tools, so that they know how to do these things. But one of the most important things I think the job market is saying, we need people who can communicate their ideas, communicate their results of their analysis effectively to decision makers, so that all your efforts and work will actually make some impact and will not go unheard. And that's one of the biggest thing I think, or gap between what we teach in classroom and what the job market is looking for. And obviously, the other big elephant in the room is AI. And if you look at the job ads in recent years, the mention of AI, Gen AI, natural language processing, and so on and so forth is getting more and more. But I feel our curriculum is lagging behind.
Mm.
We are still ourselves are trying to figure out how to do this and how to bring AI into the CI world. And I feel we are at this moment we still don't have a complete, comprehensive, clear path yet. So that's going to be the challenge we're facing right now.
Good, thank you. How soon will that research be completed and will you be able to share with us?
We have an earlier paper published already in GISIB, and you can search for that and just search my name. You should be able to find the paper that was published in 2023
Okay.
or 24. And but we are continuing to dig into the data set and trying to identify some more recent ones.
Okay, great. Actually, if you can send me that link, I'll make sure it gets out to everybody along with a couple
Sure.
follow-ups. Eric,
Sure.
I'd like to ask you about CI, and we're seeing this trend and we're hearing it's going to continue where CI is going to get folded into broader insights or strategy teams. What does that mean for career growth?
I've watched CI disappear essentially as a distinct profession, I guess, and yet also be somewhat eternal. In some ways, I think of myself as a part of the CI diaspora. That there was this culture that we all lived in, and then we've all gone off to different parts of the world. And you'll notice that some people's job titles are senior consultant or insights manager, or they work out of the legal section and not necessarily operations or strategy or R&D. I don't know, but all things told, after 30 years and having known people who, I've known that entire time, some of whom are still in the business of what we call competitive intelligence, I think there's something special about CI. I think there's something special about people that take the methodologies and techniques that were pioneered in nation state government intelligence and apply them legally and ethically in the private sector. I think the people that were trained to do that and to operate like a full intelligence professional might in an agency where it says it on the front door. So if you work at the CIA, all you do is collect intelligence. You're there to get in other countries' secrets. And everything serves that. And so you never have to really explain yourself. If you're collecting information, that is considered valuable. If you're analyzing it, that is considered valuable. For everybody in the private sector, we have to dress this up. We have to put different lipstick and costumes on the thing. And And yet I think I've read 1,000 different obituaries for CI. And when all is said and all is done, it's special. And the people that I meet in the discipline are special.
Mhm.
And which is to say, it's not just to say that I like everybody personally, though I do, and I do want to see everyone for karaoke at some time sooner rather than later, or an Aurora WDC sponsored rock concert, or any one of you can sponsor the rock concert. I'll play. I'll be there. I do want an all intelligence band. We haven't formed this one yet, but Scenario Speedwagon. Got the name, haven't got the personnel. I know some people on the call here could be part of this. But y'all are special, not just because I like you, though y'all are my favorite people, but the people I meet in the CI world do not think and operate like other professionals.
Mhm.
I see more and more people who create original content. And there's a lot of professionals I meet who say they're in the business intelligence world, they say they're in insights, but what they do is they digest secondary source information. They don't formulate the question, figure out how they're going to figure out who has that information, figure out how to get that information from them legally and ethically. Often people who would not otherwise want to give it up, or if they do, they don't want to know the full context of where it's going to go, aka human intelligence. And then you get that information and then you digest it in a way that the client can use, and hopefully you don't have a first class ticket out the window into the parking lot. But the people that have been through that and who actually know how to create an original product, not I'm going to read some consulting firm's pay to play off the shelf $3,000 report, and then I'm going to put that into a tilt table in Excel. No. You look and go, okay, here's what's going on. There's $55 billion at stake next year. Who knows what? Let's go get it. Let's not get sued or end up in prison. And let's put this together in a way that our emotionally labile, stress case executives that we have to present this to don't freak out. The people that can do that, they are creating something that is unique. They are creating their own content based on professional principles that could be repeated by other people like them, which is why we associate with the fellows and in these professional groups. I have been around the world, folks, and there's only so many people like the people on this call.
Yeah.
That's special, and I don't care what you call it. And we sometimes people want to call it strategic insights. They want to call it competitor essential knowledge transfer drops. I don't care. When I got in, it was called competitive intelligence, and the people that I meet do something what I perceive to be inherently valuable. And I was just having one of our interminable discussions about how do we prove that this is valuable. I have done this long enough that I can tell you about projects I've been involved with where the client, based on an investment that was under $1 million in getting the insight, either made a decision that won them $300 million more revenue, or kept them from spending $150 million on an absolute fraud and getting everybody fired. I can't because of NDA, but outside of confidentiality, it's been long enough. I can show you the value, and I can compare what all those things have in common. And I will say that the people that are able to have that kind of impact in and of themselves with their own professional methodologies, that's competitive intelligence. There's other people that can have value too. I'm not trying to say that we're the prettiest princess at all the balls in all the kingdoms of the world, but because a proper auditor can catch fraud, there's business insights to find exactly where the perfect product mix is. There's ways to make $1 billion doing other people's stuff. The right lawyer can make your dreams come true or keep your nightmares at bay. But what we have is special. And over time, what I think we need to do as a community is be confident in that and communicate that of all the business disciplines in the world, marketing, management, accounting, and whatnot, I think we have one of the most valuable and enduring skill sets. I don't think it's been represented effectively as it could.
Eric, I'm going to tell you, I feel the love, and we could have more of a discussion, but we only have a few minutes left. So if you don't mind, I am going to ask Megan one last question, and then perhaps one question to all the panelists before we wrap. Megan, my question to you is, what surprised you the most when you moved from formal CI training in school into the real world practice?
Yeah, so I feel like there's a couple that come to mind, and maybe I'll start with the lack of formal framework. And as I reflect back at my time at Mercyhurst, we did have classes that didn't use the frameworks as formally. It was more back of mind because you spent so much time getting to know them, and you could reference them if you need them. But coming into the workforce, there's not that repetition of doing the frameworks all the time. And your questions sometimes from leaders are just so niche that you're under a tight deadline, or it may not require a full framework, so you're using bits and pieces. But that's been something, as I reflect on my time in the workforce, is just the lack of going through the formal framework every single time you're presented with a topic or a question. And the second thing which came to mind as I was listening to the other panelists speak is the getting your decision makers to ask the correct question. In school, you're just asked the question. It's like, okay, that's face value. You can ask some clarifying questions to the professor, but you just went and did it. Whereas now in the professional field, you have to recognize that sometimes people don't know how to ask the right question to answer what they need, or is it really relevant? And I think being newer in the career, sometimes it can be intimidating to ask a 30-year plus veteran who knows the business very well, are you sure that's what you need? Or, ask them to rephrase. It can be very intimidating. And that makes me also think of the persuasiveness. In school, it's more so we're trying to get the key findings and the facts out. Whereas now in the workforce, you have to get that buy-in from these leaders. And I think that's something that was also an adjustment.
Yeah, very good point. And something, we did talk to earlier is understanding those leaders. Okay, I have one last lightning round question for all the panelists. Very quick answer, 30 seconds, because we only have about 5 minutes left. So my last question is, what's the best advice you ever ignored and later understood? And I'll go first. The best advice that I ever ignored was, don't talk to the C-suite. Let them come to you. I understand where that comes from, but there's so much value in getting to know them and understanding really where the heart of the question's coming from. So who wants to go next?
Eric, you giggled, but let's go to Megan. Ladies first.
I don't think I have one at this point. I can't think of one, so I'll let the seasoned veterans take this.
Go, Eric. Giggler
Many
in the
years
corner.
ago, a full bird colonel in the course of our operations said to me, "Garland, you've just missed a perfect opportunity to say nothing." And I always do. I always miss it. The use of strategic silence. That we are in the business of saying things, but sometimes after you've said some stuff that has already impacted the group, listen.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Andrew, your turn.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them in that ratio. So yeah, emotional intelligence to be developed as much as IQ really would be the advice I would say to myself again, as you need to relate to people more than you do to, work out, analytical frameworks. It's not what business leaders engage you on. It might be the means to an end, but it's not the end in itself. And being able to relate to people, think on your feet, take people on a journey, facilitation is just as important as the IQ elements.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating. I know this was full of lots of discussion, very good discussion, both here and online. I'm still looking at the chats. There's great conversation happening. We did have 2 questions, and they say it was answered live, but I want to just talk to that for a second. One question was, how has AI changed competitor intelligence? And the other is, how do you use AI in your CI workflows? And I will tell you that we are going to have a webinar talking about AI later this year. I'm not sure when, but certainly feel free to reach out to any of us to discuss that. I'm a huge AI advocate. I use it all day, every day in the work that I do. And I'm sure there are other people within the CI Fellows that can talk about that. So as a quick wrap up, some of the things we heard today are that CI is increasingly about supporting decisions and not monitoring. It's about understanding your internal clients, their motivations, and how to manage them. It's about learning to be a storyteller, but also a salesperson. You have to sell what you're doing. CI is very diverse. I would argue one of the more diverse fields, because each one of us does something very different on this panel. What's rewarded is your curiosity and your ability to synthesize the work, not just using the tools. That influence matters so much more than the volume of our output. And having a community like this really helps you in your learning, in your resilience. As you heard, a number of us have lost our jobs over the years, so we're here. We've survived, we've reinvented ourselves, and we're always here to provide support to you. A couple of final announcements that I have for you. Join us the 3rd Thursday of each month. We will host a new webinar with lots of great topics and new panelists. I dropped in the chat at the very beginning links to each of our LinkedIn profiles. Even August, who couldn't join us, so feel free to reach out to us individually, and also please do connect with us. We love having that audience, that community that we can talk to as well. CI Fellows is reinvigorating our mentorship program. That is really part of our mission, which is to build the next generation of practitioners, but also support and build the current generation of practitioners. We are looking for both mentors and mentees. So please do fill out an application online if you're interested. I will drop a link to that in our chat. And then after each of our webinars, we want to hear your input from the event. You will receive a survey that's actually going to be dropped in this chat. We do take them seriously. We look at them, we use them to adjust what we're doing and to plan future webinars. And there's going to be a drawing for the book, Loosen Their Lips, by one of our fellows, Ellen Naylor. So everybody that completes the survey will have an opportunity to get that book. So I am going to go ahead and drop those couple of links in our chat. I thank everybody that was on the panel, and I also thank everybody that participated today in our attended as our audience. So thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to wrap our webinar for today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
You, Kelly.
Yes,
and everybody
thank
else.
you. All right.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, bye.